Today, we're going on a journey. We're heading back in time, way back, like 30,000 years ago, to Ice Age France. And we're going to try and solve one of the most incredible mysteries in archaeology. We're going to go looking for music.
So think about this for a second. How do you find something that disappears the very moment it's created? I mean, how can you possibly listen for an echo in a world that's been completely silent for thousands and thousands of years? This is the huge challenge we're digging into today. You know, there's a fantastic saying that really gets right to the heart of the problem. You can't excavate a melody. It's so true. Music isn't a thing you can just dig up. It's an experience. It's an action. So if we can't find the song itself, what can we find? Well, this is where archaeologists have to turn into detectives, hunting for clues, looking for objects, for special spaces, and for the frozen traces of what people actually did.
So let's start piecing this impossible puzzle together. Think of it like a detective story, right? We don't have a smoking gun, we don't have a confession, but what we do have are all these scattered clues, and when you start putting them together, they begin to tell a really compelling story. Okay, first up, clue number 1. And this is probably the most concrete piece of evidence we've got. These are the props, if you will, that were left behind on this ancient stage.
Now, what's so wild about the Asturias cave isn't just that they found one of these things. It's that they found a whole collection of them, scattered through different layers of time. I mean, one weird bone with holes in it, that could be an accident, a fluke, but a whole bunch of them, that starts to look a lot like a tradition.
So what are these things exactly? Well, technically, they're called aerophones, which is just a fancy way of saying they're wind instruments. And they were made from the wing bones of huge birds, like vultures, which are, get this, naturally hollow. It's such a brilliant example of people using what they had in the natural world to create amazing new technology.
But wait a minute, how do we really know it's a flute and not just, a bone some hyena chewed on? This is where the science gets so cool. Archaeologists have this whole checklist, a protocol they follow. First, they check the context. Where was it found? Then, they rule out natural causes, like animal bites. After that, they zoom in with microscopes, looking for tiny telltale marks from stone tools. And then, and this is the best part, they actually make replicas to see if they can produce controlled musical notes. It is a super rigorous process to get from a bone with some holes to a prehistoric musical instrument.
All right, let's move on to our second clue. And this one, well, this one isn't an object at all. It's a trace of human behavior, literally frozen in time, preserved in the soft clay floors of these deep, dark caves.
Just look at that number. Over 400. 400 footprints. This wasn't just one person who wandered in and got lost. This was a space that was used over and over and over again. This was a place people kept coming back to, moving with a real purpose in the pitch black.
So for a long time, some researchers looked at the patterns in the footprints, especially these deep heel marks, and they imagined ritual dancers. But science is always evolving, and newer, more detailed analysis tells a slightly different story. It looks like people were carrying heavy, wet loads of clay, probably to make the cave's incredible clay bison sculptures. But here is the crucial part. Even if it wasn't a ritual dance, it's still evidence of choreographed, deliberate, repeated movement in this deeply symbolic place. It's like we get to see the performance even if we can't hear the soundtrack.
And that brings us to our third and honestly absolutely critical clue. How on earth did they do any of this? Making instruments, sculpting bison, moving around deep inside a mountain, none of it is possible without one key piece of technology.
We really need to let this sink in for a second. We're not just talking about dark. We're talking about a true, profound, absolute absence of light. The kind of darkness where you can't see your hand in front of your face. To go into these places, you needed to be a planner, you needed to be skilled, and you needed the technology to basically bring your own sun with you.
And they didn't just have one trick up their sleeve. They had a whole toolkit for lighting the way. We found evidence for at least 3 different systems. They had torches made from pine wood, which were great for moving around. They had these little stone lamps that burned animal fat, giving them a stable, long-lasting light for doing detailed work. And they even had big, stationary fireplaces that could light up a whole room. They knew exactly which tool to use for the job.
So, now's the time. Let's bring all these clues together. We've got the instruments, we've got the pattern movement, we've got the technology that made it all happen. It's time to solve this puzzle.
And here's the key. Any one of these clues on its own, well, maybe you could explain it away. A bone flute could be a one-off experiment. Footprints could just be people walking. But when you find intentionally made instruments inside caves that also have the traces of choreographed movement,
And they're decorated with symbolic art, and you find the sophisticated lighting technology needed to pull it all off? Well, that's when all the pieces snap together. That convergence builds an overwhelmingly powerful case.
There's this quote that just sums it all up so beautifully. We might never ever hear the exact melodies they played, but archaeology can give us so much more than that. It can show us the stage, it can show us the props, and it can even show us the ghostly outlines of the rehearsal.
So what does all this really tell us? It tells us that we have to see our ancient ancestors in a new light. These were not just people grimly surviving in a tough world. No way! They were planners. They were technicians. They were artists and experimenters. They were filling the darkness with art and movement and, almost certainly, with sound. They were, in a word, human.
And that kind of leaves us with one last big question to think about, doesn't it? The drive to make music, to organize sound and share it with other people in special places, that seems to be a profoundly ancient part of who we are. So even if we can never hear their songs, the fact that we can find clear evidence of their musicianship tells us something fundamental about their humanity, and just maybe, about our own too.